Hello, welcome back to the channel. It's Natalie. I am playing with the mushroom house 1, 2 and 3. You can tell that 1 is very well loved. These, well, firstly, you're going to have to excuse my bandage on my finger. Pretty much all my videos this month are going to have that bandage on my finger. I did have a little incident with a knife while cutting some homemade bread. Yeah, it was not good. It's nothing serious, no stitches or anything else, but it is going to appear in a few of my videos this month. Anyway, let's talk about this card. I am doing a little scene. With my scenes, I like to do a little bit of background. I tend to be either quite clean and simple or all in. I don't tend to play a lot with a lot of paper. I do it. I won't say that I don't do it. But I do like my colouring. I do tend to colour a little bit more than paper, working with the pretty papers. I just like to watch them and look at them and just, well, you know, just love them. This is Eclipse masking paper. It's a 2nd generation stamp, so it's very, very light, but it's there, trust me. I have also placed these images on the left and the right up a little bit higher to give the illusion, more so the one here on the right, to give the illusion that it is in the background a little bit more. The other one here is a little bit more closer, shall we say. The thing about masking, as I said, I like to have a little bit of scene, so we're going to do a little bit of colouring. Just in the background, that's going to be seedless preserves and salvage patina. I just picked these colours. These colours, honestly, I just picked them. I am trying to not pull up my little chimneys. When I've done the masking, I haven't worried about the clothesline in 2 of the houses. The house in the center that has 1 is sort of meant to be in the front, so it's all good. The other one in the back, it's going to get a little quite pale, but it's fine. We're going to fix that up. I am trying to work on the mask to start with and working up towards the top of the houses to try and make sure that the little chimneys do not pull up. The masking on those things do not pull up. I have a little bit of ice spruce. These are all oxides. Now, they do tend to have a very chalky look to them, which of course dulls down the stamping, but we're going to fix that later on. The ground here, again, I just picked colours. I just thought, let's just try that and see what happens. This is the best part. When you remove all the stencils, it's just the best. All my colouring with this are going to have a lot of uniform, so there's not a lot of variations within colour. I did that because I just wanted to. I didn't want, there's a lot of detail in these images, and it just felt like it fitted better to have them all together and all the same colours. I am going to change a couple of things. We'll talk about that a little bit later on. I'm kind of going to colour things a little bit differently than what they would have been stamped, but it'll be all right. I have W5, W3 and W1 for all my stalks of my mushrooms. Even though we've got some here in this one that has sort of brickwork in it, I'm basically going to ignore that for the time being. I just thought it was really like fun to just have them all the same and have a little community. I don't know where else they do it, but I know in Greece they're all the same, as in white with blue roofs, is it? It's white and blue, especially in the islands that I visited. Anyway, so that's what we're going here for. I'm trying to make sure that I'm putting a little bit of shading underneath the caps of my mushrooms, because it will be projecting projecting a little bit of a shadow, and making sure around my edges I have a little bit of darkness. Behind the fence that's in that center mushroom is also going to be having a little bit of shadow projected onto the back of the mushroom. And just filling those in with my W1. This cardstock is actually, I picked up the wrong cardstock. So it was also a little bit of a test to see. Normally I will go for Express Copic cardstock, but this is just, what is this? This is just a white cardstock that I had in my stash. I just thought, let's just see how this goes, because I've already stamped it. I could have masked it, but I don't like to start again. So, I've used W5, W3 and W1 on my ground just to give a little bit of difference. Now, it's not recommended to use it with oxides. I've never had a problem with it. I always make sure I clean off my markers, as you possibly saw, when I've finished colouring whatever I'm going to colour onto the oxides. And I'm yet to have a problem. I'm yet to have a problem with it at all. They say it can ruin your nibs, so it's pretty much make sure you use distress inks, or make sure you colour it really super carefully and quickly clean it off. I don't know if you noticed that there was actually a bleed. My marker now has, not this one, the one before, the R46, this one. It just leaked all over my image. Thankfully enough, it was not a very big one and I got it. What you need to do is make sure that if this happens, there's a couple of things you should really do. One, make sure you remove the cap off both ends. It sort of equalizes the pressure in it and it just doesn't leak. The other thing, when you refill your inks, I would highly recommend getting a little jewelry scale and measuring how much you're putting into your Copic markers. Depending on the marker, I try to keep my sketches at around about 14, a little bit over 14 grams. This includes the cap and the base. I put it all on the jewelry scale and do it. We'll come back to that in a minute. I have a multi-liner pen here and I'm just filling in a couple of little bits and pieces, and this is where we're going to fix up our line with all our cloves. You don't have to stress too much. Some people might go, I'm not very good at drawing. You're tracing, so to speak, and no one's really, unless you really go totally different, no one's really going to see it. And even then, unless you went way smaller, no one's still going to see it. I'm using BG72 for my Salvage Patina to cover up my highlights. I am going to have a little bit of a problem with the center, the chimney, because I'm using VO5 right here because it's a real mixture, so it's going to stand out. What I do later on is go over that with a little bit of the O, just to tone that down. I think I did it off camera because I forgot to put the camera on record. The eye spruce, I'm using BG72. All my caps, we forgot to mention about that, all my caps are the R89, R46, R24 and R22. This is underneath the caps, it's usually, my mushrooms are brown underneath there, so that's what I've done. So we've got the E89, 87 and E84. The one just there and this one, they're sort of like they're ballooned out. The other ones are sort of more, which one's which? Is it concave that forms like a mountain sort of thing? Yes. So it's, So it's sort of ballooned out. So basically on those lines, I've done it the darker color, whereas underneath the caps, I've kept the darkest right near the red of the caps of the mushrooms. This is one of my wood colours. We've got E57, E40, E55 and E53. Strictly speaking, I think the doors are grass, like the same thing that's on the side of this mushroom here. But I decided to go with like a wood look to it. You're never going to tell the difference. But I thought it was just a nice little variation because we've got all three houses, even though they've got quite a few different doors and everything else, I just thought that might be a little bit too much green. So that's what I did. Anywho, jewellery scales with sketch markers. As I said, I put the whole thing, I take the nib out, I put that in the cap, I have that on the scale, and I weigh my marker. So 14 grams or a little bit over. I tend to go a little bit over. That's what I try and refill my ink to. Gone are the days of counting. You get it everywhere. Just jewellery markers, jewellery scales are not terribly expensive, if I remember correctly. I'm trying to remember how much mine was. The chow markers, I try and keep them to be just over 10. I just check them every now and then. We're only making small little images. I mean, this is a bit more, but still there's only a little bit here and a little bit there in comparison to someone that does a great big picture or something, you know what I mean? So I just check them every now and then. But that's what I do. And that's my tip for the day, is just to weigh the markers rather than wait until they're bone dry. And this way you don't get the explosion of ink. So we've got G28, YG67 and YG63 for all my greenery, including what the house is sitting on. I'm going to cover them in grass, and I'm just going to use the same green. Working with my darkest colour along the base, try and give him a bit of definition, a little bit of shadow, and also with the odd little flick going outwards, because grass is different, you know, it's not uniform, it's not, so it's very textured. The leaves, I should say, the center of them, they have the dark color, where especially the one on the right, you can see much easier. It has layers of these leaves. So where the front one sits on top of the back one, that's going to have a little bit of shadow. These grass areas, I'm using a lot more green, of the lightest green, I should say. And that's going to give it a little bit of difference. I decided I needed some more again, making sure that you clean off your tip whenever you do this, because it's not recommended. I don't want you to leave me a comment and it's like, I destroyed my tip. This is just what I did. So you do it at your own risk. I just thought the ground needed a little bit. It was just too different. I've got C5, C3 and C1 for my pebbles. I'm also going to use this on my chimneys. The pebbles, each of the pebbles, I've just done a line at the bottom of it, especially if it's like, just to give it a little bit of definition, just each of the lines, each of the pebbles, and then like the C5, C3, and then go over the whole thing in the C1. I do that 2 times because I wanted a little bit more of the depth. So basically the pebble underneath it is going to be projecting a shadow onto the pebble on top. So that way, that's why I've got one line just at the base. You can sort of see me doing a bit better there. And just going over each one giving it an extra bit of definition. These steps, I've just tried to make it darker around the left and the right, around as it's going around the corner, and a light coming down into the front of the steps. So yeah, that is what's happening. A lot of colouring, a lot of playing. Yeah, my finger, I damaged it. We don't need to talk about that, but it was not fun. It was not fun. Looking at it now, it's still it's healing up quite nicely. And it's not doing too badly at all. But I digress. Let's just move on. As I said, the chimneys are going to be rounded, so that's going to have a little bit of shading to the left and right. A couple of them, I've done them to be a little bit different. So the one on the far right, I've got a bit of shadow at the top and at the base. The windows, I'm just doing it in that little corner, the little left-hand corner of each of the window panes, just so it's something, it's not flat white, it's something a little bit different, and blend that out with the C1. And we're nearly done. I forgot a couple of little bits and pieces because I forgot underneath my mushroom cap. What else did I forget? There was something else I forgot. I can't remember. The other thing I've got to do is going through, that's right, my window pane. All these mushroom houses, most of them have a number on them, like apartment 1, apartment 2, all that sort of stuff. They are all going to be a yellow combination. Now, it's not a strong yellow. I'm trying to keep it a little bit muted. This just has a C5, 3, and 1 again for my brickwork. I didn't really know what I was doing with that at the time, but I decided to do the C5s, the warm greys, not the warm C5s, the W5s. My clothesline, they're just going to be, I used the Y26 on the top one and Y13 on the bottom. All these little signposts, and I don't know what this little one is at the top, but he's going to be all yellow because I thought that would be nice. There's also got a little welcome sign. They all have this golden sort of colour, I suppose you call it. I just thought that was nicely blended in with the rest of it. Just go back and do my little mushroom underneath my mushroom caps. He's very, very tiny, so small. And my little heart on my center mushroom house. And that's the colouring all done. So I've tried to keep it pretty simple with keeping a lot of the same colours. But there's a lot of design. There's a lot of work in that. But I think it's worth it. And that's my card. I hope you're well. I will talk to you very, very soon, and take care. Bye.